Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for stopping by, keeping me company as usual. If you're here with me for the first time, welcome, welcome. Please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and share. Also, feel free to leave your comments in the comments section, and I thank you for all of that. If you are my subscribers, welcome back. So nice to have you as always. And you know the ropes, right? You're going to give the video a thumbs up from now on. Please give the video a thumbs up as well as share. And then you return so that we can get on with the business at hand. And also, you're welcome to leave your comments as always. And I do appreciate it. And for all of this, I thank you in advance. Yes. Great. So now you're back with me. Let us now get down to business. So what are we speaking about today? What is our topic? Yes, this thing that we have been asking for the past 4 years. What are the policy prescriptions that Mark Golding is coming with? Yes, that Englishman who prims up in our house illegally. The policy prescriptions. That is what we're asking about for the past 4 years. Once upon a time, they were asking Andrew Holness for his crime plan. I don't hear them ask for the crime plan anymore. I don't know if it's because the security forces are reporting a downward trend in serious crimes as well as in homicide, murders. But we are now asking for the policy prescription. The media has been asking, and we've been asking about the vision. What we are hearing are some things that they are going to do. But as for the vision, there seems not to be any at all. Because we're not hearing, you say you're going to do this, that's not a vision. That's not a vision. They're telling you, we are going to do this and we are going to do that, and where's the vision? That's just you making plans. Now, where is your vision? So we can't hear what the vision is. And therefore, one must ask, if you don't have a vision for the country, what the hell you want to be prime minister for? If you don't have plans, coherent plans to solve the problems that we have, then what you want to be prime minister for? So here we have 3 members of the private sector. One of them, a PNP member, that is Lloyd B. Smith. One, a PNP supporter. I have to call her a PNP supporter. I've never heard her talking about anything that would suggest that she supports the Labour Party, and that would be Helen Davis-White, who is a trade unionist. And then you have Dennis Chung. One isn't quite sure of his politics, but one would have to say that, let's just say he's a Jamaican. A commentator, an analyst that they call upon to give an analysis about one thing or another. That's Dennis Chung. They were being interviewed by Nationwide News Network recently, and they expressed their concern about this lack of policy prescription by the PNP led by Mark Golding. And we see evidence of it, that there is apparently no coherent plan as to what they're going to do. Them say they want to form government. All we can hear about time come. Time come for this wicked and corrupt government to go, because them want to form a government that will not be corrupt. That seems to be what they are offering. And I don't know why anybody should believe that that is even possible, given how Mark Golding came to the presidency of the PNP in the first place. Given the kind of people that they are putting forward to represent the people in the constituency, people with criminal convictions, more than once they attempt to do it. Man, I talk about them support Chopper. And you have all sorts of people in the party where you hear about. Or put themselves out to represent people. All manner of deviants. And so Mark Golding and Peter Bunting are in no position to be talking about they're going to represent a government that is not corrupt. People who betrayed the party, who interfered with the electoral system and undermined them own comrades, the candidates in a certain seats, because they wanted to elevate themselves to the leadership of the party. And Peter Phillips simply had to lose the election in order for that to happen. And it's these people that going to come tell you now that them coming now to provide a government that is not corrupt. Well, as my late father would say, if you believe that, you will believe anything. I mean, no, you don't believe that. So they come, they have no plans. We understand that from 2017, Comrade Bogues and his team, which they hired apparently to formulate policies for the Rise United camp. From 2017, I've been working at it. And what they came up with is what they call a system that is supposed to be what they call equitable, right? And all kind of fancy word which sounds socialist. But what they were actually proposing is a market economy with minimal government intervention. Government is just there to regulate, but not to participate. That is the structure of a capitalist system. And there is nothing equitable about that. So we now know what it is they have in mind. They call it a mixed economy. We have always been operating a mixed economy. That is not new. What is new is the idea of minimalist government. Neither the Labour Party nor the People's National Party have been practicing minimalist government. They are heavily involved in the market because the private investment is not as it should be, so government has to get involved to try and get the economy boosted, right? They have not mentioned anything in a policy document about how they're going to grow the economy. So I can tell you that Helene Davis White and Dennis Chung, that is what them said they're coming with. We also know in terms of the tax reform and the tax policies that Mark Golding was part of a group of 12 persons, accountants, lawyer, one trade unionist, and some business people, called the Tax Policy Review Committee. That's what it was called, and it was set up by Omar Davies. And in that committee, they made several proposals, right, that they said would grow the economy. Now, Helene, Lloyd, and Dennis, if a man comes to you and say that he has some policies that will grow the economy and make life better for the people of Jamaica, you would agree that even if he made those statements 20 years ago, that he would still hold to those policies, those policy prescriptions today. If today he says that what he is about is growing the economy, you would expect that that would be the case, right? So we are not exaggerating when we tell you that these are the policies in terms of the tax reform that Mark Golding intends to implement, were the people of Jamaica stupid enough to put him in Jamaica House. And let me tell you what they are. The Tax Policy Review Committee was charged with the responsibility, first of all, of simplifying the tax system. That's the first thing they were charged to do. And secondly, they were to advise the government on the effects that the present tax system that they had in 2004 had on investments and on productivity. That was what they were supposed to do. The third thing that Mark Golding and that committee was tasked to do was to look into whether there is an equitable distribution of the tax burden and to make recommendations to that effect. That's what they were tasked to do. But what Mark Golding and that committee proposed and recommended had the opposite effect. What they proposed were tax policies that would put the burden of paying taxes squarely on the shoulders of the 83% poor people earning minimum wage, something in the order of 1.2 million workers. 1.2 million workers. And those persons who are under the poverty line, the pensioners, as well as those persons who are not working. They were the ones to shoulder the burden of the tax reform Mark Golding and that committee was proposing. In their recommendation to the government, they were instructed that whatever you do when you're simplifying the tax system and you recommend changes, whatever you do, the change must be revenue neutral, which simply means if you ask the government to give up tax here, you must find the tax somewhere else, because the government's coffers must not be increased by whatever it is you're doing or decreased. In other words, the tax that they are collecting should remain the same. So if they're getting 100 billion, that is what your changes that you want must make sure say them get the 100 billion. No more, no less. That's what it means. So Mark Golding and the committee got to work, and they came with their proposals. And the proposals that they came with, the tax reform, right? And I'm going to speak to Mark Golding now because he's the one that is of moment. He was not only on the committee formulating these policies that I'm about to tell you, he also went around and was promoting the policies, even after Omar Davies rejected most of it. He was going around with Joe Matalon to various places and telling the bigwigs in the private sector how this is good for the country, how it is good for them, and how small businesses will benefit, and how the workers will benefit. And yes, there will be some small man squeeze because of what they are proposing, but that is inevitable. The people are going to need assistance, but the government should not seek to use the tax system, in other words, tax them, and to help those people. I don't know how we expect the government was going to assist, but that is what they said. So, before I read for you, though, what the Tax Policy Review Committee said, I am first going to play the questions that were asked by these three private individuals of Mark Golding, and then I will return with the answers to the question, because I doubt they're going to get any answer from Mark anytime soon. So I will answer the question for them. Where is his plan? I have them right here, because in that tax reform committee, they said a lot of things and they made a lot of proposals, which, since they claim that it was going to grow the economy and will be much better off, obviously, this is what Mark Golding intends to implement. Were you stupid enough to put him in Jamaica House? So let us start first of all with the article, and then I'll let you listen to the various analysts. So the headline of the article by Nationwide News Network says, analysts warn PNP to outline clear vision for governance. And that was dated the 2nd of January 2025. So this was a day after Mark Golding's speech to the nation. The New Year's speech was published and supposed to have been known. And even though he made a speech on the 1st of January 2025, the three commentators are still asking him to outline his clear vision for governance, which means he did not, in their view, outline any clear vision. You would agree? Yes. So let me read now what it was that they said in the article. Political analysts are calling on the opposition People's National Party to lay out a clear vision for the direction they aim to take the country should they be elected to government. Lloyd B. Smith says the PNP has much work to do in that regard. In other words, he's saying that they're way behind with respect to giving us a clear vision as to what direction them taking the country in. You will recall the Englishman saying that the country is not going in the right direction. The funny thing about it is that the policies that the Holness government is pursuing is the exact policies that the PNP started with Portia and Peter Phillips. When they map out that deal with the IMF, that policy that was put in place by them is the exact same policies that's being continued by Andrew Holness. Now, at the time, when the polls were done in 2016, while the PNP was in power, and they asked the people whether or not they think the country is going in the right direction, the people at that time were saying the country was going in the wrong direction. And then voted and put in Holness because Holness might come with something different. Of course, they wanted to go back to that idiotic policy of indirect taxation, reforming the tax system to create indirect taxation to tax the consumers and put the country into a problem. And the PSOJ said, no. Just continue with what the government left behind, the PNP government. It will bear fruits, just be patient, is what they would have been telling them, right? And so they decided to listen. And sure enough, it started to bear fruit. But we mustn't take any credit from them, the Labour Party that is. They have decided that what will be their main plank for, how should I put it? For legacy, I suppose, is that they will not increase the taxes. Apart from the time when they increased the tax in 2016 and 17 to get back the money that they gave up when they increased the threshold all the way up to 1.5. Yes, they have not raised any more taxes. Yes, we have been receiving more taxes, but it was from the increase in business and the taxes that are collecting. So that is the state of affairs. Now, when Mark Golding is going to come and tell us that the country is going in the wrong direction, he has to come and tell us what is the right direction and how he plans on us getting there. Because if he's saying that this direction that his previous government, Portia and Peter, put in train, that is now giving us so much revenues that we can do all sorts of things. We hear Andrew Massandro tell we that we're full of money, man. We have money like dirt now to do all kinds of things. It's just the bureaucracy that hold it up. It's basically what he was saying. And if that is the case, and that is the wrong direction, then what it is that they plan to do? Because it seems to me that if getting more revenue that we can now spend, it's a matter of priorities. So are they saying getting more revenue is not going in the right direction? What it is that they're talking about, they need to specify, and that is the thing they have not been doing, except to parrot that we are going in the wrong direction and we need PNP in power, right? Because time come now for PNP to be in power so we can move in the right direction, and we can't hear what that is. Where they get this idea from that the country is moving in the wrong direction, even though Mark Golding said the economy is doing well. And recently in the New Year's speech, he's saying that the country was set back by the hurricane. Where did they get the idea from? Don Anderson Paul. He's not of the opinion that the country is going in the wrong direction. But since the people say that the country is going in the wrong direction and he want the support of the people, they go say going in the wrong direction. Then he comes everything all right. The country are going good. I don't understand this man. Clearly, he's trying to fool up the people. So, let Lloyd now say his piece, and then I will go to Helen Davis White.
So far, they have not, in my estimation, been able to sufficiently put on the table a raft of policy and a clear-cut vision as to what they will do should they become the next government of Jamaica. They have a lot of work to do there. They keep saying that at their last conference they had sort of laid out some kind of framework, but that's not enough. There are some nitty-gritty issues, some nuts and bolts issues, which must be addressed.
So Lord B is saying that there are some nitty-gritty issues and some nuts and bolts issues that must be addressed. He never said what it was, or in any event, Nationwide did not say play that section, right? So what would be these nuts and bolts and nitty-gritty? Well, he needs to come out and say if the country is going in the wrong direction, as he claims. This is Mark Golding, a him assessor, right? And the Bon Bunting, since him are the one that everybody understands to be the real leader, waiting for a seat in order to take over. They have been saying the country going in the wrong direction. So the nitty-gritty and the nuts and bolts would be what different thing would they do in the economy? What it is that they would have done differently from what the government is doing, bearing in mind that this is the PNP's policy of the previous government of which they were a part and they were in cabinet. They were both in the cabinet agreeing to the policies that is being employed now by Holness. They said I'm going to change it. Policies that is bearing fruits, right? That they said, especially Mark, that the country is doing well and the economy was set back. And he even went so far as to say that Holness can't manage the economy without Nigel. You remember all them things that I'm saying? Right? So they want to make changes to an economy that is doing well according to Mark, the Englishman. So what would those changes be? And why is it they can't tell us after 4 years? Is it because they have no plans, or is it because whatever they have in their minds, they know it will not be accepted, so they can't contend about it? What would then be the policy on crime? We know that Mark says he wants to put in place some policy where he can go to a judge to get an order to go lock up somebody and hold them for how much days, right? Without charge. That is something that would never be accepted, which party come from in England. But you see, we are black people and we are enslaved. So therefore, I think that those are the kind of things that you need to do to these slaves, right? And we accept it. So I'm thinking could come and talk that trash. What other policies do they have for cutting the crime? They were there. Bunting was National Security Minister, and him certainly never solved it. And I'm going to say, when he was there, it was a little less. It was less. But that is not a solution. 4 years you were there. You implemented this and that. What did you do about increasing the number of detectives? Because that is how you're going to solve the crime. It's the detectives of the police force who go out there and find the evidence to secure convictions in the court. What did you do to increase the number of detectives? And if you did not increase the number of detectives, it's no wonder you couldn't solve the crime problem either. So when you come in to say that you did a little better, why is it that the murder went up? Because you were not convicting people. If you were charging and convicting people and they were behind the bars for 10, 20, 30 years, they would have less murderers, and so we wouldn't have the problem that we are having now. So to say that you brought the murder rate down to 1,005 because you were having curfews and this and that, so what you did was to suppress the murderers were still running around, boss. Otherwise, they wouldn't be around to be murdering other people. They ought to be behind bars. What was the conviction rate for murders while you were there, Peter Bunting? Can you tell us? Because if you have 1,005 murders and well over 1,000, that's nearly 5,000 murders that would have occurred under your watch. How many convictions did you get? And if you did not get 5,000 convictions, it means the murderers are still out there plaguing the society. Hence, we have the problem just the same. So how are you going to be blaming the government when you were there before and it was your job to solve the problem and you didn't? And so the problem is compounded now. Other nuts and bolt issues. What are you going to be doing about export? What are you going to be doing about the high cost of living? You like to talk about the high cost of living, but how do you plan to bring it down? That we can't hear. Let us move on now to what Helene Davis White had to say and what her concerns were, such as they may be.
I think persons may be asking of the PNP now, what is it exactly that you will be doing differently from what is happening now? And so I think the PNP has to be ready to come forward, not just with a manifesto, but to be able to engage the country in terms of what it is that they think is necessary to change the fortunes of, the Jamaican society, Jamaicans generally.
So Helene is asking, what are you going to be doing differently? Of course, you must ask the question. Now, you said that the country is moving in the wrong direction. So clearly there is a right direction, which is different from the wrong direction. So what are those policy prescriptions that is going to bring about this right direction that we cannot hear? Let me now turn to Dennis Strong to hear what it is that he has to say.
The opposition, I think, needs to show the people, what they're going to offer to them. It's not just a matter, I think, of saying that, well, this is what this person has done or pointing out scandals. I think the electorate is a lot more mature and people want to know what is going to be offered to them.
So for Dennis Strong, he's talking about now what it is you're coming for the people, right? He's focusing on the people. So Lloyd B. Smith wants to know about the nuts and bolts of what you're coming with. He wants to see the plans, the policy prescriptions laid out in a clear vision for the people. Helene Davis White wants to know what you'll come with different, since you said that the country going in the wrong direction. What are you coming with that is different? Why people should vote for you and not Brogard? And Dennis Strong is saying what it is that you're coming with for the people, what it is you're proposing to do for the people that he says is what the people want to know. I have the answer for you. All three of you, I want you to listen to me now. What it is that Mark Golding is really about. Why it is you can't hear about his policy prescription and his vision. The reason why you're not hearing about the vision, because the vision has nothing whatsoever to do with the people. It has to do with a certain segment of the society from which he sprung, the privileged, and what he hopes to do for them, himself and his business, using the tax system. That's the reason why they are there, in my view. So I will now lay out for you, in clear and concise terms, what it is that Mark Golding has said in the past about how the economy will grow. These policies were never implemented. 1 and 2, yes, but the rest of them were not implemented. And therefore, I would expect, he would assume, that the reason why the economy is not growing is because these recommendations that they made in the tax policy review committee, which they said should grow the economy, they were not implemented. So, if he believes that they will grow the economy, and he says he's about growing the economy, clearly these must be the policies that he intends to implement. Common sense. So what it is that we know so far about Mark Golding's policies based on his utterances? Well, listen to this that he had said at the annual conference.
We want to expand the Senate to include diaspora representation, so that and we want to include them on public boards where they have the skills and experience to add value to the governance of our public institutions and improve national life and nation building.
So one of his main focus, perhaps because he does not want to have to renounce his British citizenship, which is not allowed by our constitution for persons to be dual citizens sitting in either the Senate or in the parliament. So he's a champion for Jamaicans who made a decision to leave this country and go abroad and, to work and live and go to school and all them kind of thing. So he wants them now to come and sit on our public boards to replace Jamaicans who are living here. Right? He also wants to expand the Senate in order for them to sit on the Senate and pass laws for us who live here. And he's thinking that maybe he can arrange it in such a way that they can live abroad and make these decisions for us who living here. Right? For that to happen, the Constitution will have to be amended. I do believe that that section is not deeply entrenched, Section 41, and it can be changed, it appears, by a simple majority. When Mark Golding is making these statements about what he wants, because this him at the back right now, and we are the slaves, he did not come and ask the Jamaican people, what we want, but him going to tell us what him want. Right? So that is one of his policies, to change the Constitution to make it possible for the people in diaspora to hold them green card, hold on upon them citizenship, especially the citizenship, and serve in our parliament. Apparently, the 2 million people in Jamaica is not enough. We don't know what we do, right? So now him want to bring in his friends. And don't assume that the people that him going to bring in look like me and you either, Right? Don't make that assumption. So that's his policy. Let's hear what else he's coming with regards to the diaspora.
We will also make it easier for Jamaicans overseas to undertake philanthropic works here at home, cutting through the frustrating red tape that makes it so hard for Jamaicans abroad to do good deeds here at home.
So he's going to do something about the bureaucracy, not to make it simple and easy for we in Jamaica, but to allow for charity to be brought into the country. And evidently, this kindness will only be extended to our Jamaican diaspora. So when it comes to philanthropy in Jamaica, will it be a two-tier system? One system for Jamaicans living abroad and another system for other people? So only if you can show that you're born Jamaican, that you can benefit from the simplified system. I mean, this man is talking. What is this man talking about? Another policy he suggested at the same annual conference in September last. And he made the case that a government led by him would improve the health facilities for Jamaicans to enjoy. And then he went on to say this, that he would make healthcare more affordable, which implies that he intends to impose user fees. If you're going to make something more affordable, it must be your intention to charge a fee. Yes. So we can chalk that down to him saying that a government led by him, were you stupid enough to put him in Jamaica House, he will go back to charging fees for us to use the public health facilities. And it stands to reason, and you will soon see why. Now, he also mentioned providing incentives to hotel owners. He spoke about access to beaches without saying how he proposed to make it possible for us to access these beaches. He never said how. He spoke about early childhood education, but I would urge you not to pay him any attention with that, and you will soon see why. And he also proposed to increase the threshold to $3 million, right, for persons who are on PAYE. Now, that would mean giving up taxes. So would the incentive to hotels, which means that he would have to make it up elsewhere, get the tax from somewhere else. So we must now look and turn our attention to the tax reform policies that he was recommending to the government of Jamaica. This is where now his major plank is. Why? Because at the time when they made these recommendations, they were saying that these are what is needed to grow the economy. And since that is what he says he also wants to do, then this must be part of the plan. So the tax reform that was being proposed by Mark Golding and others, which would have formed part of legislation to be passed in our parliament, is very revealing. Why? It is revealing as it shows where he stands on who should pay the taxes and how much. It is also revealing because the effect of this tax reform that he was proposing with the others would have widened the inequity in income further, creating a tax system which shifts its focus on alleviating the tax burden on those who are poor and place that tax burden on those who are rich and who can afford it, as well as businesses, right? And that is the system we now have. Now, it's very important that you understand something, my peeps, that in the past, both parties, the PNP and the JLP, have agreed to take on the responsibility for providing free primary health care, free education from primary to secondary school levels, in addition to providing security for the people. That is something that was agreed on at various times. Bruce Golding brought back the free education, and the PNP continued it, and Wholeness is continuing it. Yes, the schools are charging fees, but believe me, if people were to pay the true value of the education, you could not afford it, because I'm sure it would be into the hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. So it is heavily subsidized by the government. It's the schools that are charging these fees, and government is telling them this and that about these fees too, right? So when it comes to this social programs, this is part of socialism, by the way, both PNP and JLP were in agreement, right? This is what we're going to do, and the people merely pay the taxes that does these subsidizing, right, for our children and our people. The two parties, PNP and JLP, have decided in the past to support poor families with welfare programs such as PATH. Both the PNP, I think it was started by the PNP, and the JLP has increased past benefits to the beneficiaries. So both parties are in agreement with that arrangement. That is how we're going to spend the taxes, and the people not complaining about it either. They merely pay the tax that they must pay without complaint. They embraced, both parties, PNP and JLP, the NHT, the Heart Trust, the NIS, and the NHF, National Health Fund. I do believe it is. Yes, both parties have done so, increasing benefits to the beneficiaries out of the taxes that we pay. So there is unity of purpose. There is consensus when it comes to these public policies. So when in 2004, Omar Davies set up the Tax Policy Review Committee to look into the effects the tax system has on investments and productivity, with a view to simplify the tax system, as well as to create an equitable distribution of the tax burden, instructing the committee, which includes Mark Golding, that whatever recommendations they were going to make to shift the taxes must be revenue neutral. No more, no less taxes must be collected after the adjustment is made. I think we can say with confidence, based upon the agreement and consensus reached by both parties in terms of public policy, that it was never Omar's intention to change or alter the public policies that they have agreed on and they have been doing for years. NHT, NIS, Heart Trust, as well as NHF. Those were the public policies that both parties agreed on was necessary for the benefit and health of our people. What Omar Davis wanted from this committee was a simplified tax system and proposals as to how we can achieve an equitable distribution of the tax burden. The tax proposals that the Matalan-led committee came up with, which includes Mark Golding, they went around the country and they were promoting this tax reform that they came up with as good for business, good for workers, not very good for the consumers, but they believe that this is what would grow the economy. So this tax reform had three elements. First, there was a tax proposal for business where the businesses would pay less taxes. And then you have a proposal for workers, the PAYE workers that is, and they would also pay less taxes. And then now you have the third element, which is now that there's going to be a gap in government revenue, they must now tell the government what they must tax in order to recover the money that they have lost. You following me, my peeps? Yes. So let us begin on what it is Mark Golding was proposing that he's saying with the others would grow the economy. And these are the policies that he is going to come with. Now ask no question, because he said that this is what would grow the economy and that is what he's about. So these must be his policies. Now listen to what he proposes for business to pay less taxes. He wants stamp duty to be scrapped. No more stamp duty. And stamp duty is usually paid on legal documents. Like when you're going to transfer land, you pay stamp duty. You're going to register a business, you pay stamp duty. You have any matter before the courts, you pay stamp duty. Any documents, receipts, and so on that you receive from companies, you notice they put a little stamp from the stamp office on it. Yes, those are stamp duties, believe it or not. So Mark Golding was part of the committee that wanted scrapped. They also proposed the abolition of education tax and heart contribution. According to them, the education tax and the heart trust contribution were just an excuse to raise taxes disguised as contributions. That's basically what they said. So they want that abolished. They said they also want to reduce the corporate tax from 33.33% to 25%, and that has already been done. Corporate tax is now 25%. So those would be the benefits to business. They said to make them more competitive. So when it comes to proposals now, tax proposals for the workers, the committee Mark Golding was on proposed that the threshold should be increased, a big increase, from 98,000 to I believe 200 and something thousand. It was a 138% increase in the threshold is what they were proposing. Good. So the increase in the threshold, according to them, that would have been the benefit now to workers. So workers would now have more money going home in their pockets. Good. Now, having reduced the taxes that companies pay and reduced the taxes that the workers pay, now comes the time now for them to propose where the money is going to come from now to fill the government's shortfall. Because, of course, the government giving up taxes, there's going to be a shortfall in revenue. So now they must say now where the government going to get the money from now to fill the gap. So what was it that they proposed? Businesses must pay less taxes, workers pay less taxes, and they wanted now to shift the revenue shortfall to the GCT. They say people should pay taxes as they spend. They say that that is equitable, and that is an equitable distribution of the burden of taxation. That is what they said. So Mark Golding and that committee proposed that the government will get back the revenue they are losing by increasing the GCT by 1% and remove all exemptions. Exemptions that were on basic food items and some basic items that are generally used by the poor. And their argument was that this was not really a benefit to poor people because rich people buy sardine to and then buy bread. So you're giving the benefit to those people as well. They propose that what the government should do is remove the exemptions from all items and set up a welfare system to help poor people if that is what they want to do. Except Matalan is saying them shouldn't use taxes to fund it. I don't know how that would work, but that's what he said. Because if the government is going to use taxes to fund poor people, then it means that somebody will have to pay for it, and that's what him a run from. So Mark Golding is of the view, remember him in the hot seat now, he's of the view that what we should do is increase the GCT and broaden the base by removing all exemptions to the extent that there are any exemptions left. And there are. So that's one of his policies for getting back the money that they're giving up. So his policy is to make the business pay less taxes and to get the money that is a shortfall from GCT. Another proposal he had was to put the GCT on fuel. Right now we have only 2 taxes on fuel. We have the special consumption tax and the ad valorem tax. Mark Golding and his crew were proposing that GCT should be put on top of that. And they believe that taxing fuel is one of the most efficient consumption tax because everybody pays, right? That is what they believe. So we know that that is going to be one of Mark's policies. Where am I going to get back the money from to fill the budget gap? I'm going to put taxes on fuel. GCT is what I'm going to use and put that on fuel. So Mas Lloyd B, you wanted to know what the raft of policies are and a clear-cut vision of what it is that they will do. Well, let me sum it up for you. The first thing is they're going to seek to make companies competitive. And what they're going to do is to use the tax system and simplify it and reform it. One of the simplification of the tax system was to merge NIS and NHT. And for the life of me, I don't understand how that works, but that was what they were planning to do. So NIS contribution and NHT contribution would come in like education tax. It just go into the government coffers and then the government spend it and do whatever it wants to do with it, right? Which means that it probably won't get to NIS and some of it probably won't get to NHT but going to do other things. That's what they had in mind. So clear-cut vision, reduce the tax burden on business, yes, and make up the shortfall by putting the tax burden on the consumers, the majority of whom are poor, through the GCT. Increase GCT from 15%, go back up to wherever they wanted to go, and remove the items that are exempted and broaden the base, meaning those things are not yet charged GCT, unlike certain services. They want that to be charged. They want everything, all goods and services in the economy to be subjected to GCT. Now, you know the reason why GCT is the one they pick on, right? Because businesses do not pay GCT. No. It is the consumers who pay the GCT because when the business pays GCT to whoever they're buying it from and they sell the item, what they pay over to the government is the difference between what they paid and what they collected. That is the beauty of it. That is why they love it. That is why they love it, and they want that because they in turn will not be paying GCT. Their businesses will not pay GCT. You see it now? You see the reason why they pick on the GCT? So it ultimately, this so-called equitable tax system that they were creating was not equitable at all. It is a grossly inequitable system that they were hoping that the government would be stupid enough to put in place. Right? That would not make them live the life that they want, pay little taxes, and then expect the poor people to mind them. So, Helene, you want to know on behalf of the people what exactly they will be doing differently? reforming the tax system, shifting the burden of taxation from business to the consumers. And you saw what happened with Audley when he tried it. But that don't matter to them. Why? Because their businesses were not affected. Especially if they do business abroad, where the people that they're doing business with don't have that kind of stupid system that they want to impose on businesses here in Jamaica. And Mas Dennis, you wanted to know what it is that they will do for the people. Well, him said him would open up the beach so that them can go on the beach and have fun. He speak to beach rights, and then he spoke about early childhood education. But we're not going to pay that any mind, as I said to you before, because if you want to remove the hard tax, you think that him going to take taxes and go fund early childhood education after them want cut out hard, after them refuse or say them want the government to take care of poor people but not use the tax system to do so. You believe say him really are going to take the taxes where him are going to collect now for him money now, you know. Now, but the fees are your money. The money that you have belong to government. Right? So when him get that money, you really think him are going to spend it on picnic? Based upon what it is that they were proposing in that committee. That's why I said don't pay that any mind. That was just a soundbite to catch a few votes. They have no intention whatsoever to do any such thing. But you can rest assured that he will be seeking to increase the threshold to 3 million, which is of no benefit to poor people. Right? That will be benefiting those persons now who are well-to-do in the society. I would have loved to get 3 million a year pay. So, Mas Dennis, you asked the correct question. What is he going to do for the people? Well, we have not heard anything. Don't have a policy for Jamaicans who live abroad. Him want to displace the Jamaicans who live here, the educated Jamaicans who live here, with educated Jamaicans who live abroad. Displace them, create space into the Senate, and make them who not live here make laws for me and you. So him have a policy for them. All know we can't hear nothing for us except beach rights. Now, isn't that interesting? My peeps, these are things to think on, and I hope Miss Helene, Mas Lloyd, and Mas Dennis is now satisfied what Mark Golding's policies will be. Never mind what you're hearing come with. Never mind what you hear him come with. The mere fact that he wanted the Heart Trust contribution to be scrapped, to be abolished, that is telling you something about Mark Golding's mindset. The mere fact that Mark Golding and that committee wanted to increase GCT and remove the safety net that government put in place to alleviate the pressures on the people with low income, they want that removed. So we know where his mindset there. Right? So never mind him come with anything or him come with none of them there, especially if it has anything to do with programs that requires taxation. To support them, him not do it. If him not coming to tell you him going to increase GCT, don't believe not what him tell you. Those are just gimmicks that him hope that you would now believe and be stupid enough to go vote for him and put him there. And then you're going to see what he's coming with. The things that interest him as a businessman sitting on a committee and attempted to use the opportunity to benefit themselves rather than benefit the country as a whole, and then claim that this thing that they wanted to put in place to tax the consumers was of benefit to Jamaica and was going to make the economy grow. And when Audley put it in place, what happened? On top of what was happening in the world, our economy experienced 13 straight quarters of negative growth, right? The economy lost 5.1% of its production, but that didn't matter to them because they were making money. You see, my peeps? Yes, that's what it is all about. You smell that money? That is what it is about. Anyway, my peeps, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me, for sharing, liking, subscribing. and leaving your comments in the comment section. Until next time, take good care of yourselves and walk good.